Hello everybody, I hope you're doing well. It's been about 2 weeks since my last video and I really need to put something out there, so here I am, in the voice. That was so lame, I apologize. Anyways, something that I wanted to start doing on my channel is movie reviews in some other form of me just talking about movies. If you've seen my Golf with Friends videos with Wiccan, you know I have a huge love for movies. Therefore, I thought it'd be a great idea to talk about them on my channel while I have gameplay in the background. So you got visual stimulation and you got auditory stimulation. If what I say is really that meaningful. It might not be, who knows. The ultimate goal is to have this commentary be played over Rocket League, because I love playing Rocket League. And one Rocket League game is about the perfect length for something like this. But right now, I have to stick with CSGO, which is still an awesome game. And let's get started. This video officially kicks off my Never Have I Ever Seen, in parentheses, series. This series will be comprised of popular films that I've never seen until now. This is just one of the many, I think, series of movie-related videos that I will begin doing. I think it's just easier to categorize them within certain groups. You know, I'm going to talk about movies that just came out. I'm going to talk about indies. I'm going to talk about really old movies. It really just depends. I think that it allows people to see them in separate groups and identify what they're more interested in. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking, although I'm going to keep talking, but let's begin with our movie today, Gremlins from 1984. So Gremlins is directed by Joe Dante, who you may know from directing films like Piranha and The Howling. And it was also written by Chris Columbus, who you know from directing movies like Home Alone and the first two Harry Potter films. It's also worth noting that Steven Spielberg is the executive producer of this film, which you know from directing movies like Always and Sugarland Express. That's a joke. I have a really dry, sarcastic sense of humor, so hopefully you get used to that. Before we start, I think it's always important to find things you like about a movie and things you don't like. This obviously may vary from film to film, but for Gremlins, let's focus on 3, because it's only fitting, aspects of the film that I liked and 3 aspects of the film that I didn't like. So let's start with what I did like. I really enjoyed the time and setting of the film. Personally, I have a really strong connection to films that take place in a small town around Christmas. It's one of the many reasons why I love It's a Wonderful Life, which is a film that Gremlins references and I think aims to parallel in regards to its time and setting. Which leads me into how Gremlins' time and setting helps its story. Gremlins takes the concept of Christmas being merry and merry and cheerful, and messes with our expectations as an audience. I know that other horror films do this, like Silent Night, which came out in 2012, but the difference is Dante sets up the film like a traditional 80s imaginative fantasy film and creates a warm atmosphere that we've come to accept from Christmas time films. The way Dante uses this time and setting to complement its story creates a unique experience. Which brings me to number 2, its story. It's movies like Gremlins that make me long for the imaginative movies I watched growing up that I feel aren't really around anymore. Movies I love like E.T., The Goonies, even Home Alone. And I think it's worth noting that the people who came together to make this film were also the same people who made those movies. Gremlins has a story that begins with a creature called a Mogwai that has very specific rules about him. That alone gets my love for fantasy mind going. So basically the film's story shows you why it's important for the characters to follow these rules. It's not a complicated story and setup, but movies don't always have to be sophisticated and complicated. Some movies do really well being simple, and I think Gremlins is one of those examples. The whole story is basically set up within the first 10 minutes. However, Gremlins is able to sustain that throughout its entire runtime. So number 3, another thing that I really liked about the film was the film's tone. Gremlins never fully abandons its playful Christmas time atmosphere that it creates early on within the film. Dante seems more interested in the idea of what would It's a Wonderful Life be like if it had gremlins in it. And he's a lot more interested in that question than shifting its cheeky tone to something that's maybe sinister and brooding, something that we've seen in films like Black Christmas or even Krampus. Its playful tone is one of the biggest reasons why Gremlins feels unique, which I think is saying something even after all these years. It's now been 33 years since that movie. Now let's move over to what I didn't like about the film. One, I think it exceeds its runtime. What I mean by that is, given its story, I think it's too long. Quite simply, it overstays its welcome just a little too much by, I would say, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But I do not think that the film starts to drag until around the second half of the film. A key sequence for me that I feel contributes to this is when the gremlins start creating chaos around the town. I don't want to give anything away, but when there are a lot of gremlins running around town, Dante spends a lot of time on these gremlins creating chaos. The film focuses heavily on certain areas around the town before it concludes at a scene within a bar of all the gremlins drinking and basically having a jolly good time, so to speak. And I think that the bar scene, although at first glance may seem a little silly and ridiculous, I think that it really does add something to the film. And I think that Dante can keep that scene in the film if he decides to focus less on the other areas of the town, such as Mrs. Deagle. The whole purpose of this whole sequence, I think, is to show that the gremlins are all over town, just being crazy and terrorizing people. And I think that that can be achieved, but in a lot less time. 2. This might be more of a petty thing that bothers me alone, but the fact that the characters are so laissez-faire with the rules stated very early on in the film is incredibly frustrating. I think that what bothers me is that they seemingly set up Billy to be a smart guy, but then he just ends up being really, really dumb. I love horror, and I'm not oblivious to the fact that horror characters are usually very dumb. But I think that what makes Billy so frustrating is because you like him, and the movie makes you like him, and the decisions he makes are just infuriating. Like, why keep the pods that look like the ones from the Alien franchise in your room and do nothing about it? And why is he not at all worried about it? I digress. I guess I just feel that the movie relies a lot on Billy's stupid and irrational decisions. He makes all of those dumb decisions to only come up with a great plan at the end? Okay, I digress for real this time. Number 3. I would have liked a little more character development. With movies like Gremlins, strong character development isn't really essential, but I think it would have helped me like the movie more. The only character I really like was Billy, and I think that's because of how much time the audience spends with him and how much the movie sets him up as a character. I just think that more character development would have made the other characters feel less like plot devices. And that just about wraps it up. So what would I rate Gremlins? Thank you so much for watching and checking out this video and continuing to watch my videos. I don't really get to say a lot to you guys directly because I'm usually playing a game with somebody else, or yeah. This is the only time I've actually done a video by myself. So that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll do that more. Who knows? Please give me feedback in the comment section below telling me how I can improve this show. Please hit that like button. Let's keep talking about Gremlins in the comment section below. Let's start with questions such as, when did you first watch Gremlins, and what did you think about it at the time? Seriously, if you've never seen Gremlins but you want to talk about it, or if you want to talk about any movie that I'm going to talk about in the future, go see it. And it's never too late to talk about movies. This movie came out in '84 and I'm talking about it in 2017, so who cares? Seriously, just give it a shot and talk with me here. What I can say is I feel like Gremlins does hold up after all these years. I really think it does. I think its use of practical effects are great. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.